I love Final Fantasy X. It is the best game of all time, and I dare anyone to tell me otherwise. So for this first video, I'm going to try reviewing a Final Fantasy X challenge. The first one we are going to do this for is one that I've seen on Reddit by a person known as hallowcorehammer. They are doing a playthrough where they try to beat the game of Final Fantasy X in one hit. Now, to clarify, many enemies have more than 10,000 HP, so as long as the enemy can be defeated in a single action in one character turn, does it count as a one-hit KO. So, multi-hit attacks like Waka's attack reels and Tidus's Blitz Ace are fair game. But what if we want to go even more extreme and one-hit KO everything, even if it has more than 10,000 HP? We are going full Saitama on these fiends and killing everything in one damage instance. This is the Final Fantasy X Extreme One-Shot Challenge, aka Saitama Mode. That intro was a bit over the top, wasn't it? And it wasn't even original. Anyway, we don't get access to the sphere grid until the salvage ship and we meet the unknown person. Before that, the game is very scripted with no control of stats or any notion of autonomy whatsoever. So the run needs to start after we can use the sphere grid. The first challenge is the Tross. It has 2,200 HP. If we were going by multi-hit rules, then using the unknown person's mix overdrive to cast Flash Flood makes quick work of this. However, that is multiple instances of damage and not one. Saitama would not approve. So, we need to grind. There is an amazing FFX damage calculator created by Karafian and Evelyn TSMG that can help us calculate exactly how much strength we require to one-shot the squid. Tidus starts with 15 strength and requires a minimum strength of 43 to be able to guarantee a one-hit kill on the Tross. That's 68 sphere levels on the expert sphere grid. And because the AP requirement for each sphere level increases by 10% per level, we can calculate that we would need approximately 67,000 AP to get those sphere levels. Can we do this any faster? There are 3 things we can do to make this easier for ourselves. The first is using our overdrive Spiral Cut instead of a regular attack. In Final Fantasy X, attacks deal damage due to a variety of factors, one of which is the damage constant. A successfully executed Spiral Cut has a higher damage constant of 32 compared to a regular attack which has a damage constant of 16. We can basically double our damage output just by using the overdrive, and it's still only one instance of damage, so fair game. The second is the special skill Chair. This is a damage modifier that increases our attack each time we use it by about 10%. We can use it up to 5 times in a battle, and it stacks with itself, so we can increase our overall damage output by another 50%. Finally, we can pray to the faith and rely on good old-fashioned luck for a critical hit. Critical hit chance is calculated by comparing our luck stat against our opponent's. The difference between the two is the percentage chance of a critical hit. Tidus has a base luck stat of 18, while the Tross has a base luck stat of 15. As such, we have a 3% chance of landing a critical hit with each attack. And the best thing is, all of these factors can be stacked with each other. So by taking advantage of all 3 of these things at the same time, we can reduce the amount of strength we need to 19, drastically reducing the total grind AP to a measly 600. It might take a few attempts, but eventually we get the critical hit we need to proceed to Besaid Island, where we start to see the true challenges of this run. Meet with Waka and the Oryx, watch Valifor being summoned for the first time, and start preparing your posterior orifice, as the beginning of the game is going to be the closest thing to hell you can find in any game ever. The first challenge is when we fight the water flan. This is meant to be a tutorial about using magic and exploiting weaknesses. Titus gets the first hit, so he needs to be the one to take out the flan. Warrior of Light did this a few years back and showed it was possible. And HCH did this in 55 hours while completing their challenge run. So how hard could it be? But wait, there's more. Besaid is full of tutorial monsters that are meant to teach you different mechanics. There's the Kimahri introduction fight, the first Garuda fight where we have to summon Valifor and learn about Aeon combat, and the second Garuda fight where Waka gets the first hit and we learn about status moves. Every fight needs to be completed in one attack. The Kimahri battle won't be a problem if we can take out the water flan, as we can use Titus's spiral cut overdrive. We have more than enough strength for that. Next up is the first Garuda fight. We don't get any chance to level up Yuna or Valifor before this fight, but luckily her overdrive energy ray does enough damage. We start the fight with an empty overdrive, so we need to fill this up first. Aeons have a command called Boost. This increases the rate at which the overdrive bar fills at the cost of extra damage taken. By doing this, we can avoid dealing damage while also increasing our overdrive bar. Once it's filled, simply use Energy Ray to well and truly fry the bird. Finally, we've got Waka's fight. The game forces us to use Dark Attack and inflict darkness before using our other party members to finish it off. However, we can bypass this completely by swapping Waka out of the party so he doesn't have a chance to attack. In the waterfall area, we lose the ability to change our party's formation, which is why it seems we are forced to use Waka in this fight, and we get this set of dialogue.
Another one of those. No problem. Leave this one to me, huh? Say goodnight, birdie.
However, if we backtrack, we have the option to change our party formation again in the menu. If we enter the battle with Waka out of the party, we instead get a different set of dialogue.
Not one of these again.
Waka, this is your show.
We are by no means forced to swap Waka into the party again, so we can simply have Yuna summon Valifor to beat up the Garuda for us, like we did in the previous fight. But the strategy seems like it's against the spirit of the challenge. Ask yourself, what would Saitama-san do? So instead, we'll do it like the game intended and have Waka one-shot his Garuda. The only way to level up Waka before this fight is in the Besaid Valley. Waka decides to take us to Besaid via the scenic route, and once we leave the valley, we are never allowed to go back to it. Even worse, there are no save points in the valley, so there is no way to heal for free if our HP ever gets low. So, we need an answer that solves the following questions. Number 1. What are our options for leveling up this early in the game? Number 2. What's the most effective way of leveling out of these options? Number 3. How much strength does Titus require to one-shot the water flan? Number 4. How much strength does Waka require to one-shot the Garuda? And number 5. How do you level up Waka while maintaining healthy HP levels without a save sphere? There are only 2 places where we can grind experience before these encounters. The first is around the salvage ship waters, where we can encounter 1 or 2 piranhas per encounter. The second is in the Besaid Valley, where we can encounter between 2 and 4 piranhas per encounter. Naturally, it seems quicker leveling up in the Besaid Valley because there are more enemies, so more experience. In the post that HCH made, we can see that the waterflan can be defeated if we have a strength of 27 and an elemental advantage. If we use the expert sphere grid and jump onto Orin's path after a tiny detour towards Riku's, we can get this with 37 sphere levels. Using the same calculator, we can calculate that we need a minimum of 28 strength on Waka to be able to one-hit the Garuda. We can get this with 44 sphere levels or 26,800 AP. To put into perspective, each piranha gives 1 AP, so that's 26,800 piranhas. We can overkill each piranha for 2 AP, but that's still 4,500 encounters. So, now that we know this is possible, how do we keep our HP high enough in the valley? We can't rely on high speed and strength because we will still take damage if we are ambushed. We can't rely on using spells like Cure because our MP stat is rubbish. And there is no way that the limited number of items we can obtain up to this point can keep us topped up. The answer is the skill Pray. This is found within Yuna's portion of the sphere grid and can heal a small amount of HP to all party members for absolutely no cost. 0 MP. If we can learn this, then we can sustain ourselves in the valley and gain experience quickly for both characters that need it. Until we have Prey, the only way to grind is in the salvage ship waters. Riku can consistently overkill them with her grenades, and with the save sphere on the ship, if either character is low on HP, you can just return to the ship for a free heal. We need 32 sphere levels or 8,400 AP to learn Prey. We can then graduate to the next hunting ground, the Besaid Valley. Because we went through Riku's grid and learnt her skills, to maximize the AP we gain, the grenades that we can steal are still the way to go, while Waka just defends. When Waka levels up his first +4 strength node, he can reliably one-shot them with a normal attack. After 20 hours of constant gameplay at 4 times speed and increased encounters, we finally reach our goal of 26,800 AP, which is conveniently also slightly over what Titus needs to get to 27 strength after backtracking through the sphere grid. Get some well-deserved sleep before starting the next grind in preparation for the waterflan fight. After obtaining Valifor and leaving the village, we get into a tutorial encounter with a dingo and condor. It is here that we can obtain the last piece of the puzzle, the lightning steel. This is an equipment drop for Titus that is absolutely crucial for this run. That is because it comes with the lightning strike ability. Because of the flan's elemental weakness, a melee strike with this weapon does 50% more damage, allowing us to defeat the water flan with only 27 strength. HCH got this after 116 attempts, so how hard could it be? Well, turns out hallowcorehammer was one super lucky motherfucker, because I had to do this fight 971 times before I finally got the lightning steel drop. In this encounter, both the dingo and the condor can drop items, but only the dingo can drop the weapon we need. There is about a 3% chance for a weapon to drop, and there are 8 different abilities that this equipment piece could be customized with. There are also 4 party members that the equipment could drop for. So for us to get a weapon for Titus with lightning strike specifically, we can calculate that the probability of this happening is just over 1 in 1022. So yeah, lucky AF. After waking everyone up in excitement before being told to sleep on the couch that night, finishing Besaid wasn't too difficult. The waterflan goes down in a soggy mess. Kamari can't take a casual swipe, and Garuda number 1 doesn't last long. Finally, Waka takes out the... Let's try that again. Waka takes out the... Yeah, this might become a common theme in this run. Waka needs a critical hit to be able to take out the Garuda. On top of that, damage in Final Fantasy X isn't a fixed number, but rather a range of numbers that can occur. At 28 strength, each hit can do between 666 damage and 752 damage, which means a critical hit can do between 1332 and 1504 damage. The Garuda has 1400 HP, so not only do we need a critical hit, we need to also have a damage high roll on that same attack. It doesn't take too long for this to happen, as after a few attempts we get the high roll crit we need and we finally leave this bloody island. We are now on the SS Leaky. We have 2 Sinspawn encounters here with a little more HP than the Garuda. We can summon Valifor to attack the fin to defeat that easily. And Achilles can be taken out with Titus after using Chair 5 times and then Spiral Cut. It seems like our grind through the early game is going to make the rest of the game smooth sailing. Enter the Kilica Woods, and the first battle is a scripted battle against a Rigora. This is a tutorial for Kimahri and how he can use Lancet to learn blue magic. The game forces you to use Lancet, but we could just skip this fight by having Kimahri learn a different special skill, like Chair. Just like in the Garuda fight with Waka, we have to use a special skill to progress, but there's no limitation as to which special skill. So by teaching Kimahri Chair, we can continue the fight without damaging the Rigora and have Titus deal the killing blow. But once again, this feels against the spirit of the challenge. So we have no choice but to use Lancet as the first move of the fight to one-hit the plant. Rigora in the Kilica Woods have 780 HP, so going back to our trusty calculator, we can figure out that we need 55 magic for Lancet to be able to take out the Rigora. That is 77 sphere levels or a casual 260,000 AP. This is a problem because holy shit, that's a lot of AP, and more importantly, like HCH points out, makes the later fight against Baron and Yankee impossible to win. Luckily, for this scripted fight, it only has 520 HP. Why? Who knows and who cares? Going back to the calculator, we only need 46 magic to be able to defeat the Rigora now. This translates to 61 sphere levels or 115,000 AP via Yuna's sphere grid, which seems a lot more achievable. Now, let's say we decide to do this grind. The only place we can grind is on the SS Leaky, because for some weird reason you can't play as Kimahri on Besaid. And there is only one encounter on the SS Leaky, and that is the battle against Sin's Fin and the Sin Scales. The baby Sin Scales come in groups of 3 and spawn infinitely during the battle. So if we have a party of Waka, Titus and Kimahri and have them all hasted, we can just spam the X button and kill Sin Scales without having to ever take damage. Each wave gives 8 to 9 AP, depending on whether Kimahri gets a turn or crits, and between killing each wave, letting them respawn, and the fin moving animation, we can get 90 to 95 AP per minute. If you can do math, that's another 1200 minutes of grinding. Complete the grind, level Kimahri up and use Lancet to, let's be real, probably set a record for the highest amount of damage ever done with Lancet, because who even uses Kimahri? Also, in case you were wondering, nothing special happens if you kill the Rigora with Lancet. Literally, nothing. Sinspawn Jano is next, because who cares about Lord Ochu? Jano has 2 phases, with the first being armoured. Because of this armour, our physical attacks are no good, so another overdrive with Valifor can take out Sinspawn Jano easily. The developers probably didn't expect you to be able to defeat it in one shot, so we see the animation of Jano opening up, before seeing its normal death animation. Head to Luca on the SS Winnow. Owaka asks you for some gil, so just give him a little bit. We only have 1,000,000 gil after the Fin fight, and the last thing we want to do is run out of money. Yuna gets kidnapped, so we get to face our next boss, the Obliterator. Not only does this boss have the most HP we have seen so far at 6000 HP, we also don't have Yuna for our Aeon Cheese strat. The normal way to complete this battle is to use the crane to severely reduce the amount of HP the Obliterator has, and then it becomes a simple fight. Unfortunately, there is no way to use the crane to reduce the Obliterator's HP to 0. If we were allowing multi-hits, and if you were smart enough to allow Lulu to get some XP on the SS Leaky, a simple Thundaga Fury would do more than enough damage. But for a true one-shot, we need to rely on Tidus's Lightning Steel once again. The Obliterator is weak to thunder magic, so like in the fight against the Waterflan, the Lightning Steel weapon does 50% more damage than other weapons. Add on a few chairs and you should have enough damage to one-shot the Obliterator with a critical hit. After some blitzball, Orin decides to join your party. There is a tutorial for armoured enemies and how Orin with his piercing weapon can ignore armour. Tidus is meant to hit the Raldo and do very little damage with Orin cleaning it up. However, with our 31 strength, we can do just enough damage and tell Orin to suck it. The next big battle is against the Chocobo Eater. Because it is weak to fire magic, summon Ifrit so it can throw down a massive burning hellfire to defeat. It didn't die. The Chocobo Eater has 10,000 HP and the maximum damage that we can do is 9,999. It survives with 1 HP. So it is at this point we need to somehow break the damage cap. To do this, we need to be able to customize weapons, which we can't do until we have Riku. So, it seems we have finally met our first failed enemy. We could progress with the story by allowing it to knock us off the cliff, but is that really our style? Well, it doesn't look like we have a choice. At least we're not breaking the game. Operation Mihin begins, and we get introduced to Sinspawn Gui. The main body in Phase 1 has 12,000 HP, the head has 4,000 and arms 800 each. We need to deal well over the damage limit of 9,999 again. Speedrunners have found a way to bypass GUI altogether by having an NPC push you through an invisible wall, but at this point we are breaking the game, and that well and truly breaks the spirit of the run. No amount of grinding can get around this problem, so we need to start looking for solutions outside of the sphere. Remember earlier in the run when we decided to learn Prey? We decided to access it via Riku's sphere grid instead of Yuna's because it was more efficient. We also learned Riku's trademark skills as a byproduct of this efficiency. What if we could get an item that we could use that can deal more than 9,999 damage? Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the thing that you either love or hate about Final Fantasy X. Blitzball. One of the rewards that you can get for coming first in a league competition is a single dark matter. Most people use this item in the endgame to customize ribbon on their ultimate armor. But if you throw it at an enemy, it does about 12,000 damage to all enemy targets. This means that we can take out every part of Sinspawn Gui with Tidus in one attack. It also means we can defeat the Chocobo Eater in one shot, if we use the same strategy. Complete Phase 1 of the Gui fight with style and move on to Phase 2. Phase 2 only has 6,000 HP, so use Seymour to keep Yuna and Orin alive while Gui has his way with him because he should never be allowed to live, before we summon Ifrit so it can finally redeem itself from its past failure. The Extractor fight post Josei is not really worth talking about because it's weaker than the Obliterator, so we skip ahead through the Thunder Plains all the way to Macalania and the boss run. First up is the Spheromorph. It has 12,000 HP, like GUI, so we can just play through another League of Blitzball, win another Dark Matter, and rack up another boss win pretty easily. Almost immediately after is the fight against the crawler on Lake Macalania. It's got 16,000 HP, which is only slightly more than all the other bosses so far, but it's enough to cause us some trouble. This is because Dark Matter only does at most 13,000 damage, so it looks like the damage cap is something we have no choice but to address now. Or so you think. Now that we've got Riku, we have access to Mix again. Complete yet another Blitzball League to get another Dark Matter, and use Riku's Mix Overdrive to combine the Dark Matter with a level 1 Key Sphere to activate Sunburst. This deals a set 19,998 damage in one instance to all enemies, and allows us to defeat the crawler. After a couple of cutscenes, we end up outside the road to the Macalania Temple. Enter the temple and start the fight against Maester Seymour Guardo. The first and third phases against Seymour himself aren't too difficult because an Aeon Overdrive can easily take these forms out. The second phase is against Anima, and she has 18,000 HP. Riku's Sunburst should easily be able to take it out. There are two problems though. The first being Riku has a completely empty overdrive bar from our last fight. There is a 0 encounter rate on the road to the temple, and once we enter the temple and activate the cutscene, we are trapped inside until we confront Seymour. We need to somehow fill up Riku's overdrive bar before entering the temple. So, if we decide not to enter the temple straight after the crawler fight, we can run back towards the lake and save at the closest save sphere. Then, we build back Riku's overdrive bar against random encounters before taking on Seymour. That also solves our second problem of not having any more Dark Matter. Dark Matter are one-use items. If we want to use Sunburst again, we'll need to play another Blitzball League to win another Dark Matter, which we can access at this save sphere. Once we've done both these things, head to the Macalania Temple and face off against Seymour. We are now at the last battle of our boss rush, up against the Wendigo. It only has 18,000 HP, so that's not a problem. Go back to the save sphere and play another league. Oh yeah, we can't play Blitzball. Kinda makes sense really. We are trying to run away from Yevon as we are now branded criminals for taking out one of the world's bigwigs. So, we need to go back to the save sphere before entering Macalania Temple. We now need 2 Dark Matters, one for Anima and one for the Wendigo. So after another League of Blitzball, we can continue through the game and take out the Wendigo. The game is meant to slow down a little now, with us arriving at Besaid Island. Everyone is split up, and we encounter a zoo at the oasis in a scripted battle. It has 12,000 HP. Go back in time, play another League of Blitzball so we have 3 Dark Matter. One for Anima, one for the Wendigo, and one for the zoo. Throw your Dark Matter at the flying bird with overgrown hair and watch it fall to the ground and stay alive. The zoo is a weird monster encounter where you can't actually defeat it while it's in its flying state. If we deal damage that should drop it to 0 HP, it just falls to the ground with 1 HP, like a Pokemon with the sturdy ability. It looks as if we have finally met our first enemy who can't be one-shot, and it's not even a boss. Wait a moment. It's not a boss. That means that we can do other fun things to it, like yeet it into oblivion. Take some damage until Orin comes to our rescue. After the Spheromorph fight, Orin learns his second overdrive, Shooting Star. This inflicts eject if successful, and with a swing of his katana sends the zoo off screen, never to be seen again. This does count as a successful victory, with XP granted to the winning party, and usually eject is considered as an instant death ability, so the run is still alive. There's also one last mandatory battle at the end of the desert, with a Sandragora blocking the path ahead. Once again, another non-boss fiend with over 10,000 HP, so as long as Orin has a full overdrive bar, you can watch it fly into the distance without having to try too hard. Enjoy the sight of Team Rocket blasting off again, because happiness after this fight is going to be hard to come by. We arrive at home and it's anything but peaceful, with Guado and fiends attacking. There are 3 scripted battles here, which are simple to get through as long as you are smart enough to have Titus steel petrify grenades from basilisks on the Josei Highroad. Home gets blown up and we head to Bevelle to crash a wedding. The guardian worm Evere tries to stop us, so that is our next target. Evere has 30,000 HP, and we have finally hit the point in the run that we need break damage limit. No more fake outs. This is it. We need 60 dark matters to be able to customize this, which means Blitzball, 60 full leagues, 600 Blitzball games, 6,000 minutes of Blitzball. Almost 6,000 real life minutes. And unfortunately, the 4x speed up booster doesn't speed up Blitzball. Technically, we only need to play 57 games, as we already have 3 dark matters from the previous fights. So that's about 5,700 real life minutes, or 4 days straight of Blitzball. If the beginning of the game was the closest thing to hell, then this is the actual definition of hell in any game. Don't get me wrong, I like Blitzball, but I hate Keeper with a passion. Early game, he sucks. So bad. After 570 games with an overall record of 407 wins, 61 losses, and 102 draws, we finally have 60 dark matters. Please subscribe. I'm not doing this again, so we need to decide very carefully who we customize break damage limit on. And realistically, there's only one option: Waka. Waka learns the overdrive Auric Reels, which can be learned by winning a tournament. A mere 3 Blitzball games gives us a one-hit move with a damage constant of 72. Most attacks in this game have a damage constant of 16 to 18, so basically Auric Reels will let us do the most amount of damage in one instance for the least amount of strength. Customize the Grand Slam, which is the name of the break damage limit item for Waka, and go through the Macalania Gauntlet one more time before reaching Evere. Between the AP obtained from the SS Leaky and just random encounters and boss fights, you should have about 51 strength on Waka, which should be more than enough to... God damn it, these damage variations. Let's try that again. Unless you low roll, 51 strength should be more than enough to one-shot Evere. The party splits into half, so let's talk about the water trio first. As Waka is part of this team, the fight against zombie Evere isn't even really worth mentioning. Throw out an Auric Reels right off the bat and the fight is over before you can even blink. Then there's Via Purifico. We get to play as Yuna and have full access to her summons, including Bahamut. Get to the end where we have to fight Isaru. He has 3 Aeons, and due to how Aeons work, we can't both summon the same Aeon. First up is Isaru's nicknamed Ifrit. Summon any Aeon that's not Bahamut and use its overdrive to do 9,999 damage and win the fight. Next up is Isaru's nicknamed Valifor. Tyria has 12,000 HP, so the only Aeon we can summon that can break the damage cap is Bahamut. Summon it and use its overdrive to do a ridiculous amount of damage and win the fight. Finally, we've got Isaru's nicknamed Bahamut. Spathy has 20,000 HP and none of our remaining Aeons can break the damage cap. There is absolutely no way to get any of our other Aeons to do over 20,000 damage. Theoretically, we could get the 3 stars item early by winning a Blitzball League. We could then do that 5 times and teach one of our Aeons double cast. But even that will do a maximum 19,998 damage and we would be 2 HP short of being able to take it out. And to get our remaining Aeons to break the damage cap, we need the Cloudy Mirror, which we can't get until after this fight and we return to Macalania. So, for the first time in the entire game, we cannot defeat an enemy in one shot. So it is at this point in the game, with a heavy heart, we have to concede that this challenge has officially failed. Aeon fights are dumb, so let's carry on and see if we can keep it at only one failure. Fight number 2 against Seymour, and this time he is accompanied by a mortar body. This doesn't make a difference because at this point we've got one attack that hits all targets, so it's more a matter of making sure we have enough strength to be able to defeat the strongest target. Seymour has 36,000 HP and a measly 1 defense, so we can calculate that Waka needs 53 strength to be able to one-shot it. There's enough AP on the high bridge to get another boost of strength, so after Titus cheers Waka on, Auric Reels does enough damage and we can finally walk out of Bevelle after leaving it in shambles. We enter the Calmlands, which is our last safe haven, before the difficulty goes up and we get all the harder endgame bosses. Our first boss is the Defender X with 64,000 HP and 30 defense. It also is an armored boss, which means we need the piercing ability. Or do we? Auric Reels does non-elemental damage, and the damage it does to armored enemies, whether we have piercing or not, is the same. So we need a minimum of 69 strength, with Titus giving us a few cheers, to be able to one-shot Defender X. Explore the Cavern of the Stolen Faith if you want to, and enter Mount Gagazet, where Kimahri gets another spot in the limelight. Biren and Yankee's stats scale based on Kimahri's stats. Specifically, their HP scales depending on how much strength and magic Kimahri has. Because we went through Yuna's sphere grid, there is no strength gain for Kimahri, and because we have completely ignored him since that point in the run, he shouldn't have gained any extra stats. So plugging in his strength, which is by default 16, and magic, which is 46, into our formula, we can calculate that the amount of HP that Biren would have is just over 11,000 HP, with Yankee having about 8,500 HP. Luckily, we had a strategy that can deal with enemies under 12,000 HP previously. If we simply return to the start of Kimahri's sphere grid and unlock the level 1 key sphere nearest to him, we have a straight path to Riku's sphere grid and her primary skills, steal and use. Grab another dark matter however you want and throw it at the duo to successfully carry on through the mountain. Seymour Flux with 70,000 HP and 40 defense. The Sanctuary Keeper with 40,000 HP and 100 defense, and the Spectral Keeper with 52,000 HP and 100 defense are the next 3 bosses, and these we can lump together. The strategies for all of these are pretty similar, with Titus setting up haste on himself and spamming cheer with Waka in the party. Once he's done this 5 times, Waka can use Auric Reels to finish off whoever the boss is. The only difference is the starting party. For Seymour and the Sanctuary Keeper, you want the third party member to have high HP, so it can tank some attacks, like Seymour's Cross Cleave, or the Sanctuary Keeper's Photon Wings. For the Spectral Keeper, you most likely want to use Lulu because of her absolute lack of use in this run. Because she's so useless, it's unlikely you've even bothered to level her up. This lack of attention makes her the perfect third party member. Lulu naturally has high evasion and low HP, so if the Spectral Keeper decides to attack Lulu, she'll either dodge or she'll die. Either way, she can't be inflicted with Berserk, and that's all that matters to us. Watch Orin give the speech of the century before starting the fight with Yunalesca. Yunalesca has 3 phases. The first has 24,000 HP, the second has 48,000 HP, and the third has 60,000 HP. We could aim to get a critical hit to get past phase 1, as we would have more than enough strength with a few chairs. However, phase 2 and 3 both require the use of auric reels. So we need to be able to use the overdrive twice, or even maybe 3 times in the one battle. The overdrive bar in Final Fantasy X increases based on the overdrive mode that is set for the character. Meet the criteria and the bar increases. Or we can cheat and use the skill Entrust to give a full overdrive bar to another character. Remember that character we previously talked about completely neglecting? Well, if you had at least let her participate in all the battles up to this point, and if you made use of the steal skill when Kimahri had his grudge match to steal some level 3 key spheres, then Lulu should have enough sphere levels to waltz on down Orin's sphere grid via Tidus's and learn Entrust. Do the same thing with Yuna, and now we have access to 3 uses of auric reels, 1 for each phase. Waka has enough strength without Tidus cheering him on, so from the rip you can throw out overdrives left, right, and center, and all 3 of Yunalesca's phases should go down, no problem. Grind up all your characters' overdrive bars again, increase Waka's strength a tad, and make your way to fight Sin. This is a 4-part battle, with the first 3 parts happening back to back to back. The first 2 parts consist of Sin's left and right fins, each having 65,000 HP and 100 defense. The third part consists of 2 enemies, Sinspawn Janae and Sin's core. Janae has 20,000 HP and 80 defense, while Sin's core has 36,000 HP and 100 defense. We can use auric reels 3 times, so we need to figure out how to pull another one from our asses. Overdrive bars fill up depending on what mode your overdrive is set to, so there are a couple of ways this can be done. There are 2 overdrive modes that we could choose for Waka, Ally or Comrade. Ally charges the overdrive bar by 3% per turn, and Comrade charges whenever another party member takes damage. Stay alive for 34 turns if you choose the Ally overdrive mode, or just keep healing your allies with the endless stock of potions if you chose the Comrade overdrive mode, until you get another full overdrive gauge to throw out the final auric reels that you need. Or, if you're like me and forgot to change Waka's overdrive mode, we could take advantage of a third overdrive mode, the default Stoic. This increases our overdrive bar when the character takes damage. Because Yuna and Lulu have next to no HP, if they get attacked by Janae with Venom, they'll be one-hit KO'd for massive damage and have their overdrive bar filled completely. Bring them back to life for an easy Entrust auric reels combo. Sin's head is up next, and it has a whopping 140,000 HP. Break damage limit only lets us hit for 99,999 damage, so a normal attack isn't going to fly now. Hopefully you decided to explore the Cavern of the Stolen Faith and obtained the optional Aeon Yojimbo, because you're going to need him now. Yojimbo has the overdrive Zanmato, which is essentially the ultimate one-hit KO. the truest form of our Lord and Saviour Saitama. Very basically, the blessing of a Zanmato attack is dependent on Yojimbo's motivation level. Motivation is determined by how much Yojimbo likes you and how well you treat him. If you summon him to use as a meat shield or decide to be super stingy and ask him to be free labor, his motivation to do good things for you reduces. Meanwhile, if he has a full overdrive bar or you give him lots of money, his motivation to do good things for you increases. Let Sin get all close and personal before summoning Yojimbo. Pay up a good chunk of change to watch Sin's head get split in half. Inside of Sin now, and we come up against Seymour one last time. Seymour Omnis has 80,000 HP and 180 defense, making him the tankiest enemy to date. Using auric reels with max cheer doesn't even come close to the amount of damage we need to defeat Omnis. Back to our handy calculator, and for auric reels to have a shot at beating Omnis, we need approximately 135 strength. If only there was a way to reduce his defense. Or even better, we ignore his defense completely. At this point of the game, we have access to the airship, so we also have the ability to go anywhere in Spira. This also means we can now get celestial weapons. These are the character's ultimate weapon that not only have break damage limit, but also have the inbuilt ability to ignore any defense that an enemy may have. Waka's celestial weapon is called the World Champion, and as you can guess by the name, is heavily influenced by Blitzball. Fly to the Calmlands to complete the Chocobo race in the Remium Temple for the Cloudy Mirror. Then head to Macalania to find the child lost in the woods to get the upgraded Celestial Mirror. With this, we can now fly to Luca and talk to the barkeep to get a shell of a weapon. To make it more powerful, we need the Jupiter Crest and Jupiter Sigil. The sigil you should already have after playing 60 plus Blitzball leagues, and the crest can be obtained by going back into the Oryx locker room and opening one of the lockers. With a fully upgraded world champion in hand, now we need to figure out the minimum strength required to defeat Omnis. Surprisingly, even with this new super weapon, Auric Reels still only does about 30,000 damage, which is now about the same amount of damage a regular attack does. But the regular attack can do a critical hit for double damage, whereas Auric Reels can't. So for this fight, we are better off just increasing our strength from 90 to about 105 and getting lucky, which seems much more manageable. However, getting lucky was a problem. I tried this battle over and over again. It turns out that Seymour has a base luck stat of 20, whereas Waka has a base luck stat of 19. As such, it was literally impossible to crit against Omnis. So that was a waste of 4 hours I'm never getting back. Anyway, this is an easy fix. Riku can learn the skill Luck, which, as its name implies, can increase our luck, similar to how Cheer increases our strength and defense. So with both Tidus and Riku buffing us up, Waka can now finally crit Omnis, and after a dozen or so tries, we get the crit we need to move on to the final boss. Our dad. The strategy for this is super simple. His first form is actually weaker than Sin's fin, so a simple Auric Reels should be able to take it out. And its second form has 140,000 HP, so Yojimbo Zanmato can easily finish the job. Use Auric Reels and Zanmato to head into the fights with Yojimbo. All your possessed Aeons can be taken out by Waka's regular attack, and Yojimbo only has 1 defense, so a final Auric Reels can end the game. And there we have it. Final Fantasy X completed in honor of Caped Baldy. But can you really call Final Fantasy X completed unless you've done the postgame? Let's start with the monster arena, where we need to capture 10 of every monster in Spira. Location number 1 is the Calmlands. There are 9 monsters to collect here, and only one of them causes us problems. That is the Malboro. Malboros have 27,000 HP. Capture weapons have 2 ability slots, one of which is capture and the other is empty. As such, the only way that we could possibly capture this is by customizing break damage limit on a capture weapon with 60 dark matters, and there is no way in hell that I am going to play through another 60 leagues of Blitzball. So we need to come up with another way. The only enemies that can drop dark matter are arena creations and dark aeons. Arena creations are locked behind a wall called the Malboro, so our only option is to somehow farm the dark aeons. Make your way to the Cavern of the Stolen Faith and teleport to the end. As you run towards the save sphere, you'll encounter Dark Yojimbo. The interesting thing about this encounter is that this is one of 5 battles with Dark Yojimbo. And to successfully defeat Dark Yojimbo, we need to defeat him 5 times in a row. So, if we beat him only once and teleport out of the cavern, the Dark Yojimbo battles reset, essentially giving us a free place to farm dark matters. Have Yojimbo Zanmato Dark Yojimbo on repeat, and after however many attempts it takes, customize break damage limit for the 2nd time this run. Capture the Malboro, as we should already have enough strength to capture it, and unlock the monster arena. With the arena unlocked, we can now access all the bosses to Zanmato. Whether we can capture everything or not is a different question. Easiest way to figure this out is by calculating how much strength we require to capture the tankiest monster and work backwards. The tankiest capturable monster is the Barbatos. It has 95,000 HP and 100 defense. There are other monsters with more defense, but the Barbatos has one attribute that allows it to take the title of tankiest monster. The Barbatos is an armoured enemy. Armoured enemies take 1/3 damage unless the weapon is a piercing weapon. Our capture weapon doesn't have any more space to be customised, so we need to be able to overpower the Barbatos and its super defense. Chucking its stats into a calculator, we can see that if we have the maximum 255 strength and max cheer, then the maximum damage we can do is 82,573. As such, we cannot do enough damage unless we do a critical hit. If we have 226 strength, then we can guarantee enough damage to capture the Barbatos with a critical hit. We currently have 106 strength, so somehow we need to get another 120 strength. There are 5 easily obtainable strength spheres that we could have received while playing the game. The first is if we won the story Blitzball match when we were in Luca at the beginning of the game. 3 can be obtained by dodging lightning strikes on the Thunder Plains, and another one can be given to us by Yojimbo's Faith if we return to it. Each strength sphere gives us an additional +4 to our stats, but that leaves us on 126 strength only. We still need another 100 strength, so we will need to start farming Juggernaut at the monster arena. Juggernaut is a species creation monster that is unlocked when you capture 5 of each ruminant fiend. These are the Jewelhorn, which is found on the Mihin Highroad, Valaha, which is found inside the Cavern of the Stolen Faith, and the Grendel, which is found in the Mount Gagzek Caverns. At 126 strength, we have more than enough strength to capture these, so once we've unlocked the Juggernaut, it is simply a matter of summoning Yojimbo and using Zanmato until we have 25 strength spheres and can increase our strength to 226. At this point, every monster all across Spera is capturable in one hit. Every monster except one. Remember that flying bird with overgrown hair? It is required to lower a monster's HP to 0 for an enemy to be captured. The only way the zoo can have its HP reduced to 0 in a single move is if either A. It is ejected from the fight like we did earlier in the run, B. Dies from having Doom casted on it, or C. Is Zanmatoed. Any other method of reducing its HP while it's flying to 0 will just result in falling to the ground with 1 HP. And to get it to fall to the ground, you need to reduce its HP by 1/3. This is the one and only enemy that we cannot capture in one shot. We can kill it in one, but need 2 to capture. Once you've got 10 of everything, we've unlocked every enemy possible in the game. All of them can be Zanmatoed and are unworthy of being explained upon any further, except for 2. And surprisingly, Penance isn't one of them because Zanmato is that overpowered. These enemies are Dark Yojimbo and Shinriu. Dark Yojimbo can be Zanmatoed, but you need to do it 5 times in a row for it to be permanently defeated. Now, that's a problem because Yojimbo's motivation to use Zanmato if he doesn't have a full overdrive bar is pretty low. So, to make this viable, we need to make sure he has a full overdrive bar for every single strike. We can have him fight random encounters until he has a full overdrive bar and then dismiss him for his first strike and use Grand Summon for his second strike. So we have to get another 3 overdrives from somewhere. Well, that's easy. We've used the Entrust trick before, so all we need to do is teach everyone in Trust to give Yuna their overdrive. Dark Yojimbo is also very fast, so unless we want to grind agility, we need to make it so we can reliably make our move before Dark Yojimbo. If we customize first strike on a weapon for everyone, then they can all go before Dark Yojimbo makes its first move. And because it goes in order of who has the most agility, as long as Yuna is in the party, she will always go last, as the underwater trio has way more agility than her. Spend however much you want per strike and eventually you'll get the luck you need to be able to Zanmato Dark Yojimbo 5 times in a row. Meanwhile, Shinriu is an underwater encounter and neither Yuna or Yojimbo can swim. The only way to defeat Shinriu in one action is by using a Candle of Life and inflicting Doom on it. It takes 255 turns for Doom to take out Shinriu, so survival is the name of the game. Shinriu only really has 2 moves that we need to worry about. This is its physical attack and its magical attack, Shining. So, to be able to tank it, we need to increase both our defense and magic defense. Defense spheres are dropped by Tankets, and magic defense spheres are dropped by One-Eyes. Zanmato farm them until you have about 200 defense and 200 magic defense. With this defense, both of Shinryu's attacks do about 2000 to 2500 damage. As such, over 255 turns, we are going to have to somehow tank an average 570,000 damage. And this is going to be mainly focused damage on one character, because Shinryu uses Eraser twice in the battle, very early on, which is an insta-kill regardless of stone immunity. Luckily, we can manipulate which character survives by just escaping with the others, because Shinryu won't use Eraser on someone when they are the only one left in the party. If we teach Waka Riku's skills, Steal and Use, then we can stack multiple buffs on Waka to keep him going. Using a light curtain casts Protect and halves all physical damage taken, and using a lunar curtain casts Shell and halves all magical damage taken. And if we are hasted, then we have more than enough turns to keep ourselves healed up, as we have access to high potions and our bed potions. On top of that, we can use the item Healing Water, which casts regen on ourselves, so we passively regain HP. And the icing on the cake, if all this healing isn't enough, if we have loads of HP and we don't necessarily want to heal with a potion, we can guard and reduce the damage taken even further. Or, if you really want to go all out with healing, we can go full circle and use the skill Pray to heal almost a potion's worth of HP each turn for free. So with that, the Final Fantasy X Saitama Mode challenge is fully completed, with only 2 exceptions to the rule. MVP of this run doesn't go to Waka, but goes to Carafian and Evelyn TSMG, as without their amazing calculator, this run would be psychologically impossible. So big thank you to the both of you for creating this amazing tool for the FFX community.